All right, so you wanted to take a deep dive into happiness.
Into the science of happiness.
Yeah, and you pointed us to this interview with Arthur Brooks.
Hosted by Peter Attia.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. So, it's good. We're going to unpack Brooks's insights into what happiness actually is.
And more importantly, how to cultivate it.
Yeah, so, when you think of happiness, you kind of think of just feeling good all the time.
Yeah, feeling good, being positive, just having those happy feelings.
Yeah, but Brooks actually says that's not really what it is.
Yeah, he compares happy feelings to...
What does he compare them to?
Well, like, say, the smell of Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, okay.
It's a sign that there's something good, but it's not the whole meal.
Mm.
It's like those happy feelings are a hint that there's something deeper going on.
Okay, I like that analogy. So if happiness isn't just about those good vibes 24/7, then what is it? What is it really about?
Well, Brooks says those happy feelings are actually driven by the limbic system.
Oh, okay.
The emotional part of our brains.
Right.
That reacts in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it overreacts or gets things wrong.
Yeah.
Which explains those roller coaster moods we all experience sometimes.
Oh, totally. Yeah, remember that time you thought you lost your phone and then you found it?
Oh, yeah, in your back pocket the whole time.
Exactly. The relief was intense.
Yeah.
But it's it makes you realize how much power we give to those fleeting feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So if we really want to be truly happy, we need to move beyond just chasing after those quick hits of joy.
Yeah, exactly. It's about understanding what's driving those feelings.
Right.
And not letting them kind of dictate our overall sense of well-being.
That's a good point.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If you want to build a successful business,
yeah,
you can't just make decisions based on, what feels good at the moment.
Right.
Sometimes you got to make tough calls.
Mm-hmm.
That might not feel great initially.
Yeah.
But they'll benefit the company in the long run. And I think Brooks argues that similar to living a happy life, it's about making choices that cultivate lasting happiness.
Yeah.
Even if they require a little discipline.
Yeah, or delayed gratification.
Right.
So, we're the CEOs of our own happiness.
Yeah, exactly. Making strategic decisions.
Rather than just reacting emotionally.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Okay, so how do we even begin to, understand our own tendencies?
Brooks has this idea of 4 quadrants.
Oh, yeah, the 4 quadrants of emotional personality.
Yeah, it's a way of understanding...
how intensely
Lately.
people experience positive and negative emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's break this down a little.
Brooke.
What are these 4 quadrants?
Well, first you have the mad scientist.
Okay.
Which is what Brooks says he is.
Mm-hmm.
And they experience both positive and negative emotions very intensely.
So, lots of highs and lots of lows.
Yeah. Imagine bursts of creative energy,
Yeah.
but also moments of deep frustration.
So, really dramatic.
Yeah, very dramatic.
Okay, what about the second one?
Then there's the cheerleader.
Okay.
They're high on the positive, low on the negative.
Radiating sunshine.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay, what about number 3?
The poet.
Okay.
They experience those negative emotions more intensely,
Okay.
but they have a deep capacity for empathy
Okay.
and connection.
So, mad scientist, cheerleader, poet. Who am I missing?
Oh, the judge.
The judge. Okay.
They're really steady and even-keeled.
Okay.
They experience both positive and negative emotions, but
not very intensely.
yeah, with less intensity.
Like the calm in the storm.
Exactly.
Okay, so I can already hear our listeners trying to figure out which quadrant they belong to.
Ooh, yeah.
And I bet some are wondering if their personality type is set in stone.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Brooks goes into some research from twin studies.
Okay.
It suggests that about 52% of our baseline happiness is actually from our genes.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
So we're kind of stuck with whatever happiness level we're born with?
Well, not so fast.
Okay.
Knowing this information is actually empowering
Okay.
because it gives you a starting point. Brooks says, just like you can manage, a predisposition to obesity
Right.
or alcoholism, you can also manage your happiness genes.
Through our habits.
Yes, exactly.
So it's our genes might deal us a hand of cards, but we get to decide how we play the game.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
He says, lasting happiness isn't about constantly feeling good. It's a skill you develop. He compares it to having a balanced diet.
Oh, right.
Just like we need protein, carbs, and fats.
For physical health.
Yeah, we need 3 macronutrients for lasting happiness.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning.
Okay, so this happiness diet is pretty intriguing.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, let's start with enjoyment. I think a lot of people just think it's about seeking pleasure,
Right.
like just having fun, doing what feels good. But Brooks says that's not quite right.
He actually argues that just chasing pleasure can be destructive.
Oh, okay.
It's like you're stuck on this
What does he call it?
a hedonic treadmill.
Hedonic treadmill.
Yeah, constantly searching for that next hit.
Never really satisfied.
Exactly.
So how does he define enjoyment?
True enjoyment, he says, is pleasure plus two more things.
Okay.
Social connection
Okay.
and memory making.
So it's not just about the experience itself, but who you share it with.
Yeah.
And how you remember it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think about like those classic beer commercials.
Oh, yeah.
You rarely see like just one person having a beer, right?
There's true. It's always a group of friends.
Yeah, groups of friends having fun, connecting the beer with happy memories.
Yeah, they're selling more than just a drink, right?
Right.
They're selling a feeling of belonging, of enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So how do we like apply this to our own lives?
It starts with being intentional
Okay.
instead of just passively consuming entertainment. Or, indulging in solitary pleasures.
Okay.
Think about how you can create experiences that involve connection
Yeah.
and memory making.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it's a weekend trip with friends,
Yeah.
or taking a cooking class with your partner,
Yeah.
or even having a regular family game night.
Yeah.
The key is to actively seek out those moments that'll create lasting memories
Right.
and strengthen those social bonds.
So investing in those experiences that will nourish us
Yeah.
long after that initial like excitement fades.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've talked about enjoyment. What about satisfaction?
Well, this is where Brooks gets into evolutionary psychology.
Okay, I love evolutionary psychology. Lay it on me.
He says we are wired to feel satisfied after a struggle,
Okay.
but that feeling is designed to be fleeting.
Wait, what? Why would Mother Nature do us like that?
It might seem cruel,
Yeah.
but think about it. If the feeling of accomplishment lasted forever,
Mm-hmm.
we might just stop striving.
We'd just be complacent.
Right.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be good for our survival as a species.
Yeah, that's true, but it still feels like a bit of a bait and switch.
Right.
You work so hard for something, and then the satisfaction just disappears.
Yeah, like that new gadget we've been wanting.
Huh?
We finally get it, and then...
we want the next thing.
Exactly.
Brooks says that true lasting satisfaction isn't about acquiring more. It's about managing our desires.
Right.
Okay, so how do we manage our desires?
Well, he suggests shifting from a traditional bucket list
Okay.
to a reverse bucket list.
A reverse bucket list, what is that?
Instead of adding things,
You cross things off.
yes, you choose to detach from certain desires.
So wanting less can actually lead to more satisfaction.
Exactly. Brooks says when we learn to control our wants
Mm-hmm.
and be content with what we have,
Then we can experience true satisfaction.
yeah, lasting satisfaction.
It's like prioritizing what really matters.
Yeah,
Letting go of those things that are just distractions.
that's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've covered enjoyment and satisfaction. What about meaning?
Meaning, according to Brooks, is the most crucial element of lasting happiness.
Okay.
It's like the protein in a fulfilling life.
So it's like the substance.
Yeah, the substance that gives everything else its shape and purpose.
Yeah. Okay, so how does he define meaning?
He breaks it down into three components.
Yeah.
Coherence,
Mm-hmm.
purpose,
Okay.
and significance.
Okay, so break those down for me.
Well, coherence is that feeling that things happen for a reason.
Okay, so like there's logic to life.
Yeah, like there's an order, even when things feel chaotic.
Yeah, yeah.
And then purpose.
Okay.
That's about having direction,
Right.
a sense that you're moving towards something.
Yeah, like your life has a trajectory.
It's not just about getting through each day.
Mm-hmm.
And significance.
Yeah.
That's the need to feel like you matter.
Like you're making a difference.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see how those three things could be the foundation for a meaningful life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I think for a lot of people, especially if they're not religious, finding meaning can be really challenging.
It can be, and Brooks acknowledges that. He says that finding meaning and purpose doesn't require following any specific faith.
Right.
It's about finding experiences that help us tap into something bigger than ourselves.
Something that reminds us we're part of something vast.
Yes, exactly.
Connected to something larger.
Yeah.
So what are some of those experiences that help us find meaning outside of religion?
Brooks points to awe and wonder.
Okay.
Whether it's looking at a starry night sky or listening to music that moves you,
Yeah.
or witnessing an act of kindness.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into something beyond the everyday.
Yeah, that sense of awe,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing our place within a larger context.
Yeah, he even mentions that Steve Martin, the comedian, had this bit about this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he told people to get small,
Get small.
meaning to recognize our smallness in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, yeah, I remember that bit.
Yeah, and it can actually be really liberating.
Yeah, totally. So I guess it's about finding those experiences that shift our perspective and help us connect to something that transcends, our individual worries.
Yes, exactly.
And those experiences can be found in nature, art, music, connection with other people, even just in moments of quiet contemplation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive into happiness, what stands out to you so far?
I think for me, it's that happiness is this multifaceted concept.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach
It's about finding that balance between enjoyment
to satisfaction.
and meaning.
Yeah.
And it's about understanding our own tendencies and cultivating those healthy habits.
Absolutely.
You know, what's really striking to me is that Brooks himself, this leading expert on happiness,
Right.
he had to apply these principles to his own life
He did.
to actually experience that shift in his well-being.
Yeah, it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah. That's really encouraging. It means that we all have the power to create a happier, more fulfilling life,
You do.
regardless of our starting point.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
It's about those small, consistent steps in the right direction.
Yeah, and those can lead to big changes over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. All right, well, that's it for this part of our deep dive into happiness.
How do you?
Stay tuned for more insights from Arthur Brooks coming up soon.
Sounds good.
It's interesting how Brooks talks about faith and spirituality when he talks about happiness.
Yeah, it's not what you'd expect.
You wouldn't expect it from a scientist.
Who's using data and research,
Right.
but that's what makes his perspective so unique.
It's kind of like you can appreciate the beauty of a Picasso without knowing all the details of his technique.
Right, or his personal life.
Yeah, you can still just be moved by the art.
Exactly.
So Brooks says faith isn't about blind belief.
For ignoring science.
It's about finding meaning and purpose.
Yeah, in a world that can feel chaotic.
And meaningless? Right. He even talks about waking up some mornings feeling like an atheist.
But still going to Mass.
Yeah.
It's a practice for him
Yeah.
that connect him to something larger.
Even when he's having doubts.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's about making that choice
Yeah, a conscious choice.
to engage in practices that cultivate that transcendence
Even when we don't feel particularly spiritual.
or religious.
Right, exactly.
So happiness isn't just about like passively waiting for good feelings. It's about creating the conditions for those feelings to arise.
Right, exactly.
And that includes nurturing our spiritual life, even when we don't feel like it.
Even if it takes discipline,
Yeah, I get that.
going against those doubts.
Now, some of our listeners, might not be religious or spiritual at all.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Brooks says finding meaning doesn't have to be about religion.
It's about seeking those experiences of awe and wonder.
Yeah, like being in nature or listening to music that moves you, witnessing an act of kindness.
Or just contemplating a work of art.
Those moments can connect us to something bigger.
Than ourselves.
Yeah.
It's about that sense of belonging, being part of something larger than our own worries.
Yeah.
So Brooks talks about this decline in what he calls the 4 habits of the happiest people.
What are those?
Faith, family, friendship, and work that serves others.
Interesting.
He says there's been a decline in religious practice,
Yeah.
family formation, and close friendships.
Yeah, especially in the West.
And he says fewer people feel like their work has a positive impact.
Or contributes to something meaningful.
Yeah.
So why is that?
He says it's because of technology.
And societal shifts.
We're more mobile.
More individual.
Prioritizing efficiency over connection.
And meaning.
Yeah, and he doesn't hold back when he talks about social media.
What does he say?
He calls them unhappiness machines.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Why does he say that?
He says they fuel social comparison, envy, feeling inadequate, a distorted view of reality.
And this is especially bad for young people.
Yeah.
It's hard to escape.
He also talks about political polarization.
And the culture of contempt.
It's like people stop talking to family and friends.
Because of political differences.
Yeah. It's pretty sad.
We're so divided.
And then the pandemic?
Oh, yeah.
That had a huge impact.
It forced isolation.
Disrupted routines, created a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, uncertainty about the future.
It was tough.
He was.
So we're facing some real challenges
It seems like it.
when it comes to happiness in the modern world.
Yeah.
But Brooks doesn't leave us hanging.
Okay.
He offers some advice.
On how to navigate these challenges.
Yeah.
Okay.
He says we need to be careful about what information we consume.
Especially when it comes to news and social media.
He says limit your exposure to negativity.
Yeah. Be mindful of the information you let in.
He even suggests setting a timer.
For news consumption.
Yeah, so you don't get sucked into that negativity.
I like that idea.
Yeah, and he says to focus on gratitude.
Appreciate the good things.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on the negative.
He's a big fan of keeping a gratitude journal.
Writing down what you're grateful for.
3 things every day.
Yeah. Shift your focus from lack to abundance.
He also stresses the importance of those social connections.
Spending time with loved ones.
Nurturing friendships.
Yeah, and doing things together.
Yeah, he even says to make an effort to reach out to people.
Schedule phone calls.
Coffee dates.
Yeah, get that face-to-face interaction.
It's those little things.
Those little things that make a big difference.
He even talks about the importance of touch.
And eye contact.
I guess those release oxytocin.
That bonding hormone.
Yeah.
That makes us feel connected.
Yeah, I loved.
And remember metacognition.
That ability to observe our emotions from a distance.
Yeah, not getting swept away.
Brooks says it's crucial.
For navigating life's ups and downs.
Without getting stuck.
In negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
Or impulsive reactions.
So how do we develop metacognition?
Brooks suggests journaling.
Okay.
Meditation. Prayer.
Even spending time in nature.
These things create space between thoughts and feelings.
It's about being the observer.
The wise CEO.
Of our emotional landscape.
Exactly.
He has this interesting journaling exercise.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
When you're feeling anxious, write down the 5 things you're most afraid of.
That's a good one.
He says it brings those fears out of the shadows.
Into the light of awareness.
Then you can examine them rationally.
Yeah, and come up with strategies.
For managing them.
That makes sense.
And he's a big fan of the failure and disappointment journal.
The one we talked about earlier.
Yeah, not just recording the setbacks.
But going back and revisiting them.
After 30 days and 6 months.
Yeah, to see what you learned.
Yeah, and what good came out of those experiences.
It's about reframing failure.
Seeing it as an opportunity for growth.
Instead of defeat.
Exactly.
I like that.
Brooks says maybe we'll even start to look forward to writing in our failure journal.
Because we see our mistakes as teachers.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
So remember how we talked about genes?
And happiness.
Yeah, Brooks says our genes do play a role.
In our baseline happiness.
But they don't determine our destiny.
It's like managing a predisposition to obesity or alcoholism.
You can make lifestyle choices.
That influence how those genes are expressed.
Yeah, same with happiness.
We can manage our happiness genes.
Through our habits.
Exactly.
Brooks uses himself as an example.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he applied these principles to his own life.
And Robin.
He says he significantly increased his own happiness.
That's really inspiring.
It shows that even someone who studies happiness
can still grow and transform.
By putting those principles into practice.
That's a good point.
It's a journey.
Not a destination.
Brooks offers a tool to track our progress.
Oh, what is it?
He calls it a happiness spreadsheet.
A spreadsheet?
Yeah. What's on it?
It tracks all the micronutrients of happiness.
Like what?
Quality of relationships.
It's meaning in work.
Okay.
Physical activity, spiritual practices.
So it's like a dashboard?
Yeah, for monitoring your progress.
To see where you need to improve.
He even suggests revisiting it regularly.
Maybe on your birthday.
Yeah, or half birthday.
To reflect and recommit.
And those things that contribute to your happiness.
I like that idea.
So Brooks also talks about love.
Okay.
Both romantic love and the love we have for family and friends.
What does he say about love?
He says it's not just a feeling. It's a choice.
We choose to love.
It's a commitment to the good of the other person.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard.
He uses the, quote, love your enemies.
Yeah, love your enemies.
That's a tough one.
For Brooks, love goes beyond feelings.
And extends to those we might not even like.
Or agree with.
It's about acting in loving ways.
Even when our emotions are pulling us in a different direction,
yeah.
He emphasizes gratitude and appreciation in relationships.
Expressing love and appreciation.
Regularly.
Strengthens bonds and increases happiness.
It's like making deposits in the emotional bank account.
I like that analogy.
So let's get back to that idea of minimizing our mirrors.
The one Brooks says is so important.
Yeah, he says we need to spend less time obsessing over how we appear to others.
And more time engaging with the world.
With curiosity and openness.
Less self-consciousness, more connection.
Yeah. So what are some things we can do?
Reduce social media notifications, spend less time on our phones.
Be more present.
Yeah, in the physical world.
Brooks even suggests getting rid of some mirrors in our homes.
That's a pretty drastic step.
It is, but it makes you think.
It does.
It's about breaking free from that self-scrutiny.
And rediscovering the joy of experiencing life.
Without that filter of self-judgment.
I like that.
The goal is to shift our focus.
Away from self-evaluation.
And back to engaging with the world.
With curiosity.
Wonder and a sense of connection.
Yeah, it's about reclaiming the observing self.
The I self.
Not the me self that's constantly being judged.
He even tells a story about a fitness model.
Oh, yeah.
Who took out all the mirrors in his apartment.
Wow, really?
And showered in the dark for a year.
That's dedication.
Yeah, it shows how obsessed we are with our image.
It's true.
Especially in a culture that values appearance.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So do you have any mirrors in your life you could minimize?
That's a good question.
I think we all have those areas where we compare ourselves to others.
Or feel pressure to present a certain image.
Maybe it's spending less time on social media?
Or being more mindful of how we talk to ourselves.
Even unsubscribing from those emails that make us feel bad.
Yeah, good point.
It's about being aware of those things that fuel the me self.
Yeah.
And choosing to step back.
That makes sense.
So Brooks says happiness isn't a lottery ticket.
It's a skill.
It's something you cultivate.
Through knowledge, choices, and habits.
Like any skill, it takes effort.
And practice.
It's not about achieving some perfect state.
Yeah, it's about constantly evolving.
Expanding our capacity for joy.
Meaning and connection.
He wants us to think about our own happiness spreadsheets.
Tracking those elements of well-being.
What stood out to you from his approach?
That's a good question.
Is there one thing you could start doing differently today to shift your happiness trajectory?
It's a good question to think about.
It's about taking ownership of our happiness.
It is.
Remember, even small actions can make a big difference.
Brooks says he wasn't born a happy person.
But he chose to become one.
By putting these principles into practice.
It's so inspiring.
It is.
It's about making those choices.
Cultivating healthy habits.
Nurturing those things that bring us joy.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the journey.
Knowing there will be ups and downs.
But always striving to move in a positive direction.
And remembering we have the power to choose happiness.
Not as a destination.
But as a way of life.
That's a great point.
I like that.
Before we move on to the last part of our deep dive,
okay,
I want to leave you with a question. If you were to create your own happiness spreadsheet, what would you include?
What would be on there?
What would be your micronutrients? What areas of your life would you focus on?
To cultivate more joy.
Meaning and fulfillment.
That's a good question to ponder.
Take some time to reflect on that.
Yeah.
We'll continue the conversation in the next part of our exploration.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. So I hope you had some time to think about those micronutrients for your happiness.
The ones that make up your own personal equation.
Yeah, exactly. We're in the home stretch now of our deep dive with Arthur Brooks.
It's been a good one.
Yeah, he saved some of his most interesting ideas for last.
I agree.
So we've talked about the 3 macronutrients of happiness. Enjoyment, satisfaction, meaning. We've unpacked some of those strategies for cultivating them.
Yeah.
But Brooks doesn't stop there.
What else does he talk about?
He brings up this idea of minimizing our mirrors.
Minimizing our mirrors. What does he mean by that?
Well, he talks about William James's concept of the I self and the me self.
Okay.
And he says our society, especially with social media, it pushes us to be obsessed with the me self.
So constantly evaluating ourselves.
Yeah, judging ourselves, curating how we appear to others.
It's like this never-ending performance.
Yeah, trying to get approval and validation.
Instead of just living.
Authentically.
Right.
And Brooks says this self-consciousness can really undermine our happiness.
Yeah, you get so focused on how you look to others.
You lose sight of who you really are.
And what brings you joy.
Exactly.
So that's where minimizing the mirrors comes in.
Yeah, so Brooks says we need to reduce those external influences.
That feed this obsession with our self-image.
Exactly, like reduce social media notifications.
Okay.
Spend less time on our phones.
Be more present in the physical world.
He even suggests getting rid of some of the mirrors in your home.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty radical.
It is. It's like he's challenging us to break free from that constant self-scrutiny.
To just experience the world.
Without judging ourselves.
I like that.
It's about shifting our focus away from that self-evaluation.
And back to engaging with the world.
With curiosity and wonder.
Yeah, and connection.
It's about reclaiming that observing self, the I self.
Not the me self that's always being judged.
He even tells this funny story about working with a fitness model.
What did the fitness model do?
He took out all the mirrors in his apartment
Wow.
and showered in the dark for a year.
That's commitment.
It is. It shows you how obsessed we are with image.
Yeah, especially in our culture.
So what about you? Do you have any mirrors you could minimize?
That's a good question to think about.
I think we all have those areas where we're comparing ourselves.
Or feeling pressure to present a certain image.
Yeah, maybe it's spending less time on social media.
Or being more mindful of our self-talk.
Maybe unsubscribing from those emails that make us feel bad.
All good ideas.
It's about being aware of those things that fuel the me self.
And making a conscious choice to step back.
I like that.
So ultimately, Brooks says happiness is a skill.
Not a lottery ticket.
You cultivate it through knowledge, choices, habits,
And just like any skill, it takes effort.
and practice.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of bliss.
It's about evolving.
Yeah, expanding our capacity for joy, meaning, connection.
He wants us to create our own happiness spreadsheets.
Yeah, to track those elements of well-being.
What resonated with you from Brooks's approach
What's one thing you could start doing differently?
to shift your happiness trajectory?
Brooks reminds us that even small, consistent actions can make a big difference.
He emphasizes that he wasn't born a happy person
He chose to become one.
by putting these principles into practice.
That's inspiring. So this isn't about being euphoric all the time.
It's about making those choices,
Cultivating healthy habits.
nurturing the things that bring meaning and joy,
It's about embracing the journey,
knowing there will be ups and downs,
but always striving to move in a positive direction.
and remembering that we have the power to choose happiness,
Not as a destination.
but as a way of life.
That's a great takeaway.
I think so too.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into happiness with Arthur Brooks.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I hope you found it helpful. Be sure to check out the original interview on YouTube.
The one hosted by Peter Attia.
Yeah, and let us know what you think. What are your micronutrients for happiness?
What small steps can you take today to cultivate more joy and meaning in your life?
Thanks for joining us.